What's up guys, Peter here from Reviews on Anything, and this video is going to be particularly exciting for anybody who is interested in cars. Now you might have seen in an early video that I put a small chip tuning chip in my Skoda Superb diesel to give it a bit more performance, and overall it was quite an interesting experience to get some more power out of my car. But obviously there is a lot more you can do with your car. And a lot more exciting things you can do in terms of chip tuning as well. So I got in touch with a company called TUNERCENTER, and they reckon they could do much better than the chip that I initially put on my car. Now, to be fair, the chip that I put on was one of the smaller chips that I could find, but they said they had much more powerful solutions for me, obviously resulting in much more gains from the engine. Now, TUNERCENTER offers several options when it comes to boosting your engine's performance. They sell plug-and-play boxes similar to the system that I've already used, that you put under your hood, plug them into your engine, and performance is boosted that way. They also go to the other side of the spectrum where they physically install new chips in your car. You have to go to a garage for that, of course, and therefore you get more performance out of your engine through the ECU itself. The third option that they offer is the one that I got here. It's called the TCBooster, and this little box plugs into the data port of your car, and you can actually directly communicate to your car's ECU. And what they do is they fine-tune the software that's already on your ECU. So what you do is you get a readout from the existing software, send it to them, they fine-tune it and send you back an updated version, an enhanced version, so you will, which you then flash onto your existing ECU. So there's no work required, you don't even have to open the bonnet, it's just plug it in, download some software, get it back from them and re-upload it to your ECU. And the performance gains are actually quite significant. They promise 35% more torque, 35% more horsepower, and up to 2 liters per 100 kilometers of fuel saving. Now those numbers sound very impressive, of course. Unfortunately, at this point in time, I don't have access to a dyno, so I can't give you any official torque and horsepower readouts. And the other important question that I want to answer is if there is actually a big change in the way the car drives. Obviously boosting power is great, but if that makes the car unmanageable or unstable or undrivable, it doesn't really do much for you because you still have to be able to use your car every day, since I don't drive a performance race car or anything. So that's the things we're going to look at this video. How does it work in terms of the installation process? I'll touch on that quickly as well. But obviously the main thing is how the car responds to the updated or enhanced software. We're also going to take a look at the box, what you get inside and what is needed for you to get the process started. So there's a lot to cover. Let's get right into it and see what's what. Alright, so we're in the car with the GoPro. Thought it would be a more appropriate place to tell you all about this. This is actually what you get in the box. Here's the box itself, plain white with no branding on it whatsoever. It's a little bit strange, but you know, that is what it is. You get the interface unit itself. It's important to notice here that you're not buying an actual chip or anything. You're just buying an interface module, and you buy the software from TUNERCENTER. So this is what you use to interface with the CPU of your car. Then you get the data port, the data cable. This plugs into your car's data port. This goes in that one. And you also get a mini USB to USB data cable, so you can connect it to your computer. Now this box by itself doesn't have any power or anything or battery involved, so you have to plug it in to your car or into your computer for it to work. Now you can see 4 options here. The tuning is obviously where you upload the new data to your engine's ECU. Setup is just how you set up the device, language and screen orientation and so on. Information is information about your car. And very interestingly, there's also a diagnosis part where you can actually read out any potential problems with your car, like oil pressure, warning lights or so on, that are very persistent. You can actually read it out over there, which is quite an interesting thing. It means you can still use this box after you've done the actual upgrade. Now it looks like you know, a very 90s piece of kit, but it's actually, the screen is very responsive. You know, it's not any high-D screen or anything, but that's not necessary. But you can see that it works really well. Information is what I have. So you know, it's very responsive and it works really well. So you know, nothing going wrong there. Same thing with the setup. You know, the screen's responsive, colors, everything. So it's very easy to use, very intuitive. You know, no buttons or anything. Everything happens here on the screen. But anybody that has ever used a smartphone will definitely get around this. So that gives you a bit of an idea on how it looks when it's actually turned on. With all the documentation that you get from TUNERCENTER, it's pretty easy to get the information from your ECU to put it on the device. Like I said, then you put it through your computer, email it to them, and you get a new file back and reverse the process in order to get it on the software on. It's pretty easy. All the instructions will also appear here on the screen, like turning your key on, waiting, and so on. So really it couldn't be simpler, and anybody can really do this. Now sadly I don't live in the hills around Modena, so I can't show you any beautiful scenery or lovely sunshine. I live in Düsseldorf and it's slightly raining today, which is pretty typical, but I thought I'd take you for a drive anyway to tell you a bit of how it is to live with the new software installed on my car. Now there's two things to cover, and the first is actually something that I was a little bit concerned about before installing the software, and that is the drivability of the car. I drive the biggest diesel engine available in this particular car, which has 170 horsepower and 350 newton-meters of torque, which is not, you know, mind-blowing by any standard, but it's pretty reasonable for a big family car. And I was a bit worried that adding a third extra power, both in horsepowers and in torques, would really impact the drivability in a negative way, that it becomes jittery and that you have to be really careful with the throttle and so on. But luckily, after the first 300 meters, I was already convinced that it was certainly not the case. Yes, there's a lot more power under your right foot, but that actually makes the car more drivable than it was before. With all that extra torque available, you now just squeeze the throttle as you go through sort of moderate traffic in and around town. And there's so much sort of low down grunt available that you just ease through traffic. I drive an automatic, the double clutch gearbox from Volkswagen, but I already noticed that it shifts earlier at lower speeds and at lower RPMs, just because there's more torque available. If you drive a manual, that probably will result in less shifting as well, because you can just leave it in a gear for longer and just ride the torque that you have, which is very nice, and it actually makes the car a lot more supple and smooth to drive. Very compliant as you go through town, very easy to live with. Yes, if you floor it right away, you know, obviously you're going to get a big reaction, but you know, who drives that way? And the same actually goes on the highway. When you are at higher speed, obviously your engine runs out of puff at some point. With the extra performance, you really notice that it's easier to overtake, that the car doesn't need to downshift 3 gears in order to overtake somebody. Maybe 1 gear, and then you just ease past traffic. And it just makes it much more sort of relaxed to drive the car, and a lot less, you have to work the car a lot less because you have so much more power reserves available. So yeah, in terms of drivability, absolutely perfect. This is so much nicer to have that extra performance in your car with such an easy fix, so to speak, and it just makes the whole drivability of the car much more relaxed, and which suits a big you know, family car like this, I think. The second point obviously is fuel consumption, and as strange as it might sound initially, more power actually means less fuel. If your car has more power available throughout the rev range, you don't have to push your car, and your engine especially obviously, as hard in order to get a certain output. With more power available, especially, you know, with a torquey turbo diesel engine like mine, you just, like I said, you squeeze the throttle, and the speeds and the power comes pretty much automatically that way. So your car has to be working a lot less hard in order to achieve the same results as before, which results in less fuel consumption. Now, Tunercenter claims up to 2 liters of fuel savings. I haven't quite reached that yet. Obviously, that is probably done in optimal testing conditions, you know, with perfect driving. I haven't changed my driving style at all. You know, apart from doing a few sort of test runs in the beginning, my driving hasn't changed. And I'm seeing 1 and a bit liters per 100 kilometers saved. So yeah, not quite the 2 liters that they've claimed, but I can see that if you drive, you know, maybe at slower speeds or a lot less in the city, that you will make more fuel gains even over what I have achieved. But living in Germany with high-speed autobahns, that's not exactly good for fuel consumption, and driving in and around town isn't the perfect circumstances either. But overall, a liter, maybe to a liter and a half, I'm seeing, which is, you know, pretty decent, I think, especially considering the power gain that you're getting. So as the sun comes out a little bit, what do we make of the whole Tunercenter experience? I quite like the process from start to finish. It's nice and easy to order your chip. You know, it's just like any other web shop, really. You just select the model of your car, select the chip that you want, and you pay. That's pretty much all there is to it. Shipment was fast, you know, as promised. It was shipped within 24 hours, and it reached me the next day, so that was quite nice as well. And the chip itself really couldn't be easier. You know, you don't even have to open your bonnet. It's just a matter of plugging it in and following the steps that you are presented with. Luckily, Tunercenter provides enough documentation in order to walk you through the whole process, so that makes it certainly a lot easier. But it's really a process that anybody who has ever used a smartphone should easily be able to do. As long as you can find the data port in your car, you're good to go. The chip itself, like I said in the beginning, I don't have a dyno, so I can not give you any real statistics on before and after the chip. But from the driver's seat and from the way the car drives,
I can really feel the difference. It's hard for me to tell if it is actually a 1/3 power difference that you feel, but the way the car performs, the way the torque comes in, the way there's more power at the top end, I have to believe them for what it is. It is such a nice extra addition to the car to have that extra bit of push that I think it is even justifiable to spend this kind of money on the top end chip. So I have to say that I really like the product. It is super easy, it is exactly as they promise, and it does really deliver. You can feel it from the driver's seat, and it does really make a difference in the way your car performs. The money, you know, it is a lot of money, but if you think about the cost of upgrading your engine at the dealership, you know, buying a physically bigger engine, that's a lot more expensive than this. And it's such an easy thing to do that I don't really see any reason why you wouldn't do it. And even if this is their flagship product in the end, right? So even if that's a bit too fancy and expensive for you, they have different solutions for a different price tag as well. So, you know, there's something there for everybody. And I think in terms of the power that you get and the fuel that you save, you know, you're not going to earn your money back that way, but it just delivers a lot more driving pleasure to your car, I think, and the fuel savings are an excellent bonus in the process. Are there any downsides? Not really. I'd say the software not being available for Mac is a bit clumsy in 2017. It's not really necessary. The packaging is not the most fancy, but I actually checked it with them and they said they'd rather spend their money on R&D than on fancy packaging. So, you know, that's not a real downside either, I think. But overall, the car is performing well. There's no strange lights on the dash. The process was simple, so I don't really see any downsides whatsoever. So overall, I'd say well done, Tunercenter. If you can upgrade your software for Mac users, then that would be the perfect experience. But overall, I'm really pleased with the whole process and the whole experience that I got with Tunercenter, from the customer service to the website to the way the car performs. I think job well done, and exactly delivering on your promises is always something really good in my book. This is Peter from Reviews on Anything with a look at the Tunercenter chip tuning solutions. Hope you guys enjoyed the video. I really like making it. It's definitely interesting to see what you can do with your normal car. Definitely check out Tunercenter and see what they have to offer for you in terms of chip tuning. And I hope to catch you guys in the next one. Cheers!